Standing before the Great Pyramid of Giza, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe. How did ancient builders, without lasers, cranes, or computers, achieve such staggering precision? The stones fit so perfectly you can't slip a credit card between them. This isn't just a relic of the past. It's a silent challenge to everything we think we know about human ingenuity. Across the globe, from the towering megaliths of Baalbek to the earthquake-defying walls of Machu Picchu, ancient civilizations left behind structures that modern engineers still struggle to explain. How did they move 100-ton stones as if they were weightless? Why do some of their concrete mixtures outlast anything we can produce today? These aren't just historical footnotes, they're profound mysteries that rewrite the story of human innovation. What if I told you that some of these ancient techniques remain lost to time, secrets buried beneath layers of history? Take the Roman concrete used to build harbors 2,000 years ago. Structures that have withstood relentless ocean waves while our modern counterparts crumble after decades. Or consider the precision-cut stones of Pumapunku in Bolivia, interlocking like pieces of a puzzle with such exactness that even today's machinery would struggle to replicate them. These aren't just accidents of history, they're evidence of knowledge we've yet to rediscover. And that's what makes this journey so thrilling. We're not just looking at old ruins, we're piecing together a forgotten legacy of brilliance, one that forces us to question the limits of ancient technology. This video is your gateway to uncovering 30 of these mind-bending construction methods, each one a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness of our ancestors. We'll explore how civilizations with no formal engineering training accomplished feats that still stump experts, from acoustic chambers designed to amplify whispers to walls built without mortar yet stronger than steel-reinforced concrete. Along the way, you'll meet the unsung geniuses of antiquity, architects and laborers whose names are lost to history but whose work speaks volumes. So, if you've ever wondered how the impossible became possible, or why some ancient wonders refuse to yield to time, you're in the right place. Get ready to see the past in a whole new light, one where every stone, every pillar, and every forgotten blueprint tells a story of ingenuity that defies explanation. High in the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes, the stones of Machu Picchu fit together so seamlessly they seem to defy the very laws of physics. Without mortar, without metal tools, the Inca crafted walls where each block locks into place like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle, so precise that even after 500 years of earthquakes, not a single stone has shifted out of alignment. How did they achieve such perfection? One theory suggests they used nothing more than sand, water, and relentless patience, grinding granite against granite until the surfaces matched flawlessly. But some researchers argue this explanation falls short. The intricate notches and curves in certain stones hint at something more advanced, perhaps a forgotten method involving controlled heat or even sound waves to soften the rock momentarily, allowing artisans to shape it with uncanny precision. What's truly astonishing is how modern technology still can't match this ancient craftsmanship. Today's engineers, armed with diamond-tipped saws and computer-guided lasers, struggle to replicate the Inca's seamless joins. And while we debate theories, the walls themselves offer silent testimony to their genius. During earthquakes, while modern buildings collapse, Machu Picchu's structures dance, the stones shift slightly, then settle back into place, a design so resilient it's as if the Inca understood seismic forces centuries before the science existed. Was this trial and error, or did they possess knowledge we've yet to uncover? The mystery deepens when you examine the logistics. these stones weren't just shaped, they were transported up treacherous mountain paths, some weighing as much as 20 tons. Without wheels or draft animals, the Inca likely used logs, ropes, and sheer manpower, a feat of coordination that would challenge even today's construction teams. And all this for a city hidden so high in the clouds, it wasn't discovered by the outside world until the early 20th century. Every detail, from the way the walls channel rainwater to the strategic placement that aligns with celestial events, suggests a civilization that turned stone into a living, breathing part of their world. Perhaps the most humbling thought is this: we may never fully unravel their secrets. The Inca left no written records, and their master stonemasons took their techniques to the grave. What remains is a legacy etched in rock, proof that brilliance isn't measured by the tools you hold, but by the vision you bring to them. As we trace our fingers over those perfect seams, we're not just touching history, we're touching a mystery that whispers across the centuries, daring us to think differently about what's possible. On the windswept slopes of Easter Island, the massive stone moai stand as silent witnesses to one of history's most baffling logistical puzzles. These towering figures, some weighing as much as 82 tons, were carved from volcanic rock and transported miles across rugged terrain, all by a small Polynesian society with no wheels, no metal tools, and no domesticated animals to help with the heavy lifting. How did they do it? For decades, archaeologists debated whether the islanders dragged the statues on wooden sledges or rolled them atop logs. But recent experiments suggest something far more astonishing. The moai might have walked to their final resting places. Picture this: teams of workers carefully tying ropes around the statues' heads, rocking them back and forth in a rhythmic motion that, over time, would inch the colossal figures forward. This method, demonstrated in practical tests, shows how a coordinated group could make the statues appear to walk upright, swaying gently from side to side as they moved across the landscape. It's a mesmerizing idea, one that blends engineering with artistry, turning transport into a kind of ceremonial dance. Yet not everyone is convinced. Skeptics argue that this technique would have left telltale damage on the statue's bases, something not always seen in archaeological evidence. Then there's the question of the island's limited resources. Easter Island wasn't just remote, it was ecologically fragile, with few large trees to serve as rollers or levers. Some researchers propose that the Polynesians might have used a combination of log ramps and pivoting techniques, leveraging the island's slopes to reduce effort. Others point to oral traditions hinting at mana, a spiritual force said to have helped the statues move, leading to wilder theories about lost technologies or even acoustic levitation. While these ideas stretch the imagination, they reflect the sheer impossibility of the feat through conventional means. What's undeniable is the scale of ambition behind these monuments. The moai weren't just moved, they were raised onto massive stone platforms called ahu, often with intricately carved backs facing the sea. Some were even topped with red stone hats, adding another layer of complexity to their construction. Today, engineers marvel at the precision required to balance these multi-ton structures without modern machinery. And while we may never know the exact methods used, the moai challenge our assumptions about what ancient societies could achieve with nothing but ingenuity and determination. Perhaps the most humbling lesson lies in the aftermath. By the time European explorers arrived, many of the statues had been toppled, and the island's ecosystem was in decline. Some see this as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the greatest achievements can falter when resources are stretched too thin. Yet the moai endure, not just as relics of the past, but as monuments to human perseverance. They ask us to reconsider the boundaries of possibility, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary solutions come from the simplest tools and the boldest imaginations. Beneath the Mediterranean waves, ancient Roman harbors stand unbroken after 2,000 years of saltwater and storms. Meanwhile, modern concrete docks crumble in mere decades. What made their materials so indestructible? The answer lies in a forgotten alchemy of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater. When these ingredients mixed, they triggered a chemical reaction that formed a rare mineral called aluminum tobamorite. Unlike modern concrete, which weakens as cracks spread, Roman concrete actually heals itself over time. Microscopic crystals grow within its structure, filling gaps and bonding tighter with each passing century. It's as if the Romans invented a living material, one that defies time itself. The real mystery isn't just how they did it, it's why this knowledge vanished for nearly 2 millennia. Some historians point to the collapse of the Roman Empire, where specialized builders took their trade secrets to the grave. Others argue it was simple economics. Medieval societies opted for cheaper, faster alternatives, sacrificing longevity for convenience. But the cost of that shortcut is staggering. Today, we spend billions repairing bridges and seawalls that the Romans would have built to last forever. Now, scientists are racing to resurrect this ancient technology. By analyzing samples from Roman piers, they've replicated the self-healing process in labs, even improving it with modern tweaks. Imagine a future where buildings repair their own cracks, or tunnels reinforce themselves against earthquakes. Yet the deeper question remains, what other revolutionary techniques did ancient engineers master, only for us to rediscover them centuries later? The Romans weren't just builders, they were material scientists centuries ahead of their time, proving that sometimes the past holds the blueprints for a more resilient future. Perhaps the most striking lesson lies in the humility of rediscovery. For all our advanced tools, we're only now catching up to innovations perfected 2,000 years ago. Those submerged harbors aren't just relics, they're a challenge, an invitation to rethink what we consider progress. After all, if an empire without computers could create eternal concrete, what might we achieve by blending ancient wisdom with modern insight? The answers are still out there, hidden in the stones and ruins waiting to be uncovered. The Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just defy time, it defies logic. Every measurement reveals impossible precision. The base, spanning over 13 acres, is leveled to within half an inch, a feat modern laser leveling struggles to match. Its sides align with the cardinal directions north, south, east, west, with an error margin of just a fraction of a degree. To put that in perspective, even with today's satellite technology, achieving such alignment would require meticulous calibration. Yet the Egyptians did it over 4,500 years ago, using nothing more than copper tools, ropes, and sheer human ingenuity. How one theory points to the stars. The ancient Egyptians were master astronomers, tracking the movements of constellations like Orion and Sirius with uncanny accuracy. Some researchers believe they used the pole star or the shadows cast by the sun during equinoxes to establish true north. Imagine teams of surveyors stretching cords across the desert, adjusting angles by fractions of an inch under the blazing sun, guided only by celestial markers. Others propose they employed a tool called a merkit, a simple yet effective device that used plumb lines and sighting rods to chart the heavens. But even these explanations leave gaps. The precision is too exact, too consistent across the pyramid's massive scale to chalk up to rudimentary tools alone. Then there's the mystery of the pyramid's corners. Each forms a near-perfect 90-degree angle, with deviations so minor they're barely measurable. Modern architects using steel squares and digital protractors would envy such accuracy. Some speculate the Egyptians developed a lost form of geometry, perhaps based on sacred ratios or mathematical principles we've yet to fully grasp. The pyramid's dimensions encode the mathematical constant pi, and its height-to-base ratio mirrors the golden ratio coincidences that seem too deliberate to ignore. Were these mathematical feats intentional, or did the builders stumble upon them through trial and error? The most tantalizing question isn't just how they built it, but why with such obsessive precision. This wasn't mere construction, it was an act of devotion, a monument designed to last eternity. Every perfectly placed stone, every exact angle, speaks to a culture that saw harmony between Earth and cosmos. Modern engineers, armed with computer models and advanced materials, still can't replicate the pyramid's flawless symmetry. It's as if the ancients possessed a silent understanding of forces we're only beginning to quantify, a reminder that brilliance isn't bound by technology, but by vision. Standing before the Great Pyramid, you're left with a humbling thought. Perhaps we've underestimated the sophistication of the ancient world. Their achievements weren't just products of brute labor, but of profound knowledge, some of which may still lie buried, waiting to be uncovered. Until then, the pyramid remains both a masterpiece and a riddle, its secrets locked in stone, challenging us to rethink what's possible. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon present one of antiquity's most tantalizing riddles, a lush, towering oasis said to have risen above the arid Mesopotamian desert, its terraces dripping with vines and exotic flowers. Ancient writers like Strabo and Diodorus Siculus described an engineering marvel, plants suspended hundreds of feet in the air, kept alive by a mysterious irrigation system that defied the harsh climate. But here's the problem: no physical trace of the gardens has ever been found. Not a single brick, not a shard of pottery, nothing. This absence has led some scholars to argue the gardens were pure legend, a poetic exaggeration woven into the lore of Babylon. Others insist they were real, their disappearance a consequence of time, conquest, and the shifting sands of history. If the gardens did exist, their watering system would have been nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine the challenge: lifting water from the Euphrates River to the highest terraces without pumps or electricity. Ancient texts hint at screw pumps, a technology attributed to the Greek inventor Archimedes centuries later, but Babylon's engineers might have perfected an early version. These spiraling devices could have drawn water upward, hand-cranked by laborers, channeling it through a network of clay pipes hidden within the garden's stone walls. Even more ingenious is the theory of gravity-fed aqueducts, where water flowed downhill through carefully angled channels, redistributing to each level with precision. Such a system would have required an intimate understanding of hydraulics, something we rarely associate with 6th century BC builders, yet the skeptics raise valid points. Babylon's arid environment would have made maintaining such a verdant spectacle a Herculean task. Without modern sealants, clay pipes would have cracked under constant water pressure, and evaporation alone would have drained reservoirs faster than they could be refilled. Some researchers propose an even bolder idea that the gardens weren't in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, commissioned by the Assyrian king Sennacherib. Cuneiform tablets from his reign describe sprawling gardens fed by an elaborate canal system, complete with water-raising screws made of bronze. Could this have been the real inspiration for the legend? The debate touches on a deeper truth. The Hanging Gardens, whether fact or fiction, symbolize humanity's relentless drive to conquer nature's limits. Even if they never existed, the fact that ancient writers so vividly imagined them speaks volumes. They envisioned a paradise where engineering and artistry merged, where human hands could shape the impossible. Today's hydroponic farms, with their vertical towers and recirculating water, echo this same ambition, proof that the dream of the Hanging Gardens never really faded. Perhaps the garden's greatest legacy isn't in stone or clay, but in the questions they force us to ask. How much of history is lost to time? How many breakthroughs of ancient genius have we forgotten, only to reinvent millennia later? Until a Babylonian shovel strikes the ruins of those fabled terraces, the Hanging Gardens will remain both a mystery and a mirror, reflecting our endless fascination with the boundaries of what's possible. Deep in the steamy jungles of Costa Rica, hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres lie scattered like marbles dropped by giants. Ranging from the size of a bowling ball to colossal orbs weighing 16 tons, these mysterious artifacts were carved from solid volcanic rock with such precision that modern laser scans reveal near-perfect spherical symmetry. Who created them and why? The answer remains one of archaeology's most stubborn puzzles. The Diquis people, a pre-Columbian civilization that thrived over 1,000 years ago, are credited with their creation, yet they left no written records explaining their purpose. Some spheres were found arranged in straight lines or geometric patterns, while others clustered near burial sites or atop mounds, suggesting they held ceremonial or astronomical significance. Intriguingly, certain groupings align with solstice sunrises, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. But without context, these silent stone sentinels guard their secrets fiercely. How did artisans without metal tools achieve such flawless roundness? One theory posits that they used a combination of fire and water, heating the rock with controlled fires before dousing it with cold water to fracture off chunks, then painstakingly pecking and grinding the surface smooth with harder stones. Experimental archaeologists have tried replicating the process, only to find it demands not just skill, but an almost obsessive attention to detail. Another possibility is that the Diquis developed a form of lathe, rotating the spheres against abrasive materials, a technique that would require remarkable mechanical ingenuity for the era. The mystery deepens when you consider logistics. Transporting these multi-ton spheres from quarries through dense rainforest without wheels or pack animals would have been a Herculean task. Some researchers speculate they rolled them on log tracks, while others propose they leveraged river systems during seasonal floods. Then there's the question of preservation. Unlike the crumbling pyramids or eroded statues elsewhere, these spheres have resisted weathering for centuries, their surfaces still eerily smooth. Perhaps the most haunting aspect is their silence. Unlike Egypt's hieroglyphs or Rome's concrete, these spheres offer no inscriptions, no blueprints, just mute perfection. Were they territorial markers, cosmic calendars, or symbols of unity? Modern communities in Costa Rica have adopted them as cultural emblems, yet their original meaning floats just beyond our grasp. Standing beside one, you're struck by the duality of their existence, impossibly precise yet utterly enigmatic, a testament to a civilization that mastered stone but left no words. In the end, the spheres challenge our assumptions about ancient innovation. They remind us that brilliance isn't always loud sometimes. It's carved in stone, waiting patiently for the right questions to be asked. And until those answers come, they remain a silent dialogue between past and present, a conversation shaped not by words but by perfect, unyielding curves. Beneath the fairy tale landscapes of Cappadocia, where wind-sculpted rock formations tower like something from a dream, lies a hidden world far more astonishing. Dozens of underground cities sprawl beneath the surface, some descending as deep as 18 stories, with tunnels snaking for miles and chambers large enough to shelter thousands. Carved entirely by hand into soft volcanic rock, these subterranean labyrinths weren't just temporary hideouts. they were fully functional metropolises, complete with stables for livestock, wineries for fermentation, and even churches with vaulted ceilings. But the true marvel isn't their scale, it's their engineering. Take the ventilation shafts, some plunging over 180 feet straight down. Without airflow, life underground would have been impossible, yet ancient builders designed a system so efficient it rivals modern HVAC. By strategically positioning shafts to harness natural wind currents and temperature differences, they created a passive airflow that kept the air fresh, even deep within the earth. Some researchers believe they used smoke tests to map air patterns, adjusting tunnel angles with painstaking precision. Others speculate they observed how air moved through caves, applying those lessons to their own designs. Either way, the result was a masterpiece of passive engineering, one that kept entire communities alive for months at a time. Then there's the question of defense. Many passageways are intentionally narrow, some so tight that invaders would have to crawl single file, leaving them vulnerable to traps or ambushes. Rolling stone doors weighing up to a ton could seal off entire sections in an instant. These weren't just homes, they were fortresses, built by a society that knew the threat of siege all too well. Historical records suggest the cities were used by early Christians fleeing Roman persecution, but evidence of Hittite artifacts hints at even older origins. Were these tunnels first dug as refuges from war, or did they serve a deeper spiritual purpose? The logistics boggle the mind. Excavating such vast networks with nothing more than hand tools would have required generations of labor. Yet there's no evidence of collapsed tunnels or structural failures, just smooth walls and perfectly proportioned chambers. Modern engineers note the rock's natural stability, but that alone doesn't explain the flawless execution. Did the builders possess lost techniques for reinforcing soft stone, or was their knowledge of geology far more advanced than we've credited? Today, only a fraction of these cities have been explored. Many tunnels remain blocked, their secrets still buried. As we inch through these ancient passageways, we're left with a humbling thought. This wasn't just survival, it was a defiance of limits. In a world without blueprints or machinery, these builders reshaped the earth itself, creating a legacy that whispers to us across the centuries. Their cities stand as proof that ingenuity isn't bound by technology. It's born from necessity, patience, and an unshakable will to endure. At the ancient site of Baalbek in Lebanon, 3 colossal stones known as the trilithons sit at the base of a Roman temple, each one weighing an unimaginable 800 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than 2 fully loaded Boeing 747 airplanes. These megaliths weren't just placed here. They were hauled from a quarry nearly a mile away, then hoisted 20 feet into the air and fitted together with seams so precise you can't slide a sheet of paper between them. The Romans who built the temple atop these stones left no records explaining how they accomplished this. Even their famed cranes, capable of lifting 50 tons at most, were hopelessly inadequate for such a task. So how was it done? One theory suggests the builders used a system of wooden sledges, ropes, and thousands of laborers, inching the stones forward on lubricated tracks. Experiments with smaller blocks show this method is possible, but the margin for error with 800-ton behemoths would have been razor thin. A single misstep could have crushed workers or shattered the stone. Others propose the Romans might have employed counterweighted levers or even water-filled trenches to float the blocks into place, techniques hinted at in fragmentary texts but never proven. Then there's the more controversial idea that an earlier, unknown civilization predating the Romans placed these stones, possessing lost technologies we've yet to rediscover. The precision is just as baffling as the transport. These stones aren't merely stacked, they're interlocked with intricate notches and grooves, a design so stable that centuries of earthquakes haven't budged them. Modern engineers admit that replicating this feat would require custom-made machinery and an army of specialists. Yet the builders of Baalbek did it with nothing but brute strength and ingenuity. Some researchers point to the possibility of advanced Roman surveying tools like the chorobates, a water-level device that could achieve near-perfect alignment. But even that doesn't fully explain the flawless execution on such a monstrous scale. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they did it, but why. The Romans were practical builders, yet they chose these absurdly massive stones when smaller blocks would have sufficed. Was it a display of imperial power? A religious statement, or did they inherit a sacred site from an older culture, preserving its grandeur out of reverence? The truth may lie buried beneath the stones themselves, literally. Recent ground-penetrating radar has revealed even larger blocks, one estimated at a staggering 1,650 tons, still sitting in the quarry. It's as if the builders were attempting something even more audacious before abandoning the project. Standing before the trilithon, you're left with a humbling realization. These stones defy not just gravity, but our understanding of history. They're a silent challenge, daring us to rethink the limits of ancient engineering. Until we uncover their secrets, Baalbek remains a monument to human ambition, and a reminder that some achievements, even in our age of skyscrapers and supercomputers, still stand beyond our grasp. Stretching across Peru's arid Nazca Desert, hundreds of enormous geoglyphs, some spanning over 1,200 feet, form intricate designs of animals, plants, and geometric shapes, so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. From a hummingbird with wings outstretched to a spiral-tailed monkey, these creations were etched into the earth over 2,000 years ago by removing the dark surface stones to reveal lighter sand beneath. The sheer scale and precision of the Nazca lines raise a tantalizing question. How did a civilization without flight or advanced tools map out such perfect proportions, invisible to the artists themselves as they work? One theory points to meticulous ground-level planning. Archaeologists have uncovered small-scale sketches on pottery and textiles that match the larger designs, suggesting the Nazca people might have scaled up these patterns using a grid system. By dividing the desert into sections with ropes and stakes, they could have replicated the shapes square by square, like a giant paint by numbers. Experiments with volunteers have shown this method can produce remarkably accurate results, but it requires painstaking coordination and an intimate understanding of perspective. Others propose the use of hot air balloons, citing ancient textiles that resemble balloon designs and traces of soot found near some lines. Could the Nazca have lifted observers into the sky to guide the work below? It's a captivating idea, though no direct evidence of balloons has been found. The purpose of these sprawling artworks is just as enigmatic. Some researchers argue they were celestial maps, aligning with stars or solstice sunrises to mark agricultural cycles. The spider glyph, for instance, mirrors the constellation Orion, while the hummingbird's beak points to the December sunrise, a time of critical importance for planting. Others believe the lines were sacred pathways, walked during rituals to summon rain in this parched landscape. Then there are the more speculative theories, landing strips for extraterrestrial visitors, or messages to gods in the sky. While these ideas capture the imagination, most scholars dismiss them, pointing instead to the Nazca's deep spiritual connection to nature and water. What's undeniable is the investment of labor. Creating these lines required removing thousands of tons of rock, all by hand, in a region where water was scarce and survival precarious. This wasn't casual art, it was a communal act of devotion, a testament to the Nazca's ability to organize and execute projects spanning generations. Modern drone surveys reveal even more hidden glyphs beneath the surface, suggesting the desert holds secrets we've only begun to uncover. Standing on the ground, the lines seem like random scratches in the earth, but from above, they transform into a breathtaking tapestry. The Nazca may never have seen their work as we do today, yet they crafted it with a precision that defies their tools and time. Their legacy challenges us to reconsider the boundaries of human creativity, proving that vision isn't limited by what the eye can see, but by the mind's ability to imagine the impossible. In the quiet town of Homestead, Florida, a bizarre and haunting monument rises from the earth coral castle, a sprawling complex of megalithic coral sculptures carved by a single man, Edward Leedskalnin. Between 1923 and 1951, this 5-foot-tall, 100-pound Latvian immigrant somehow quarried, shaped, and positioned over 1,100 tons of rock-some blocks, weighing as much as 30 tons using nothing but handmade tools, a tripod of logs, and an obsession so fierce it defies explanation. By day, he welcomed curious visitors with a cryptic smile. By night, he worked alone, refusing to let anyone witness his methods. When asked how he moved such massive stones, he'd simply reply, "I understand the laws of weight and leverage." But those who pressed further were met with a more chilling claim. "I have discovered the secrets of the pyramids. The precision of his work is staggering." The castle's signature piece, a 9-ton revolving gate, was so perfectly balanced that a child could push it open with a finger, yet so precisely fitted that it didn't wobble even a millimeter. Engineers who examined it decades later were baffled. Modern machining couldn't replicate its flawless alignment without computer calibration. Then there's the massive Polaris telescope, a towering block carved with a perfectly aligned borehole pointing to the North Star, a feat requiring astronomical knowledge far beyond a man with only a 4th-grade education. Leedskalnin left no blueprints, no journals, just a series of rambling pamphlets hinting at perpetual motion holders and magnetic currents that could manipulate weight. Theories about his methods range from the plausible to the fantastical. Some argue he rediscovered ancient pulley systems or counterweight techniques lost to time, while others point to his obsession with magnetism. His workshop was filled with strange hand-wound devices resembling Tesla coils. More controversial suggestions involve anti-gravity or even acoustic levitation, citing his cryptic notes about singing to the stones. Skeptics counter that he likely used simple but ingenious mechanics, like threading ropes through drilled holes to pivot blocks incrementally. Yet even this explanation falters when considering how one man, working alone, could lift multi-ton stones onto towering walls without cranes or scaffolding. The most haunting question isn't just how Leedskalnin did it, it's whether his secrets were a rediscovery of something much older. Coral Castle's blocks rival the precision of Inca masonry or Egyptian obelisks, and his claims about pyramid knowledge take on eerie resonance when you consider the similarities. Did ancient builders possess a forgotten understanding of physics, a way to neutralize gravity or harness Earth's magnetic fields? Or was Leedskalnin simply a savant, a man whose lone genius stumbled onto principles we're still struggling to comprehend? Today, Coral Castle stands as both a monument and a taunt. Tourists circle the giant rocking chairs and heart-shaped tables, marveling at the craftsmanship while sensing the deeper mystery lurking beneath the coral surface. Leedskalnin took his secrets to the grave, leaving behind only a riddle carved in stone, one that whispers across the decades, challenging us to reconsider what's possible when human will collides with the unknown. In a world where we've split atoms and mapped genomes, his crude tools and cryptic words remind us that some enigmas refuse to yield, no matter how brightly science shines its light. Buried beneath the rolling hills of Zhejiang province, China's Longyou caves stretch across an area equivalent to 5 football fields, an underground labyrinth of towering chambers, staircases, and bridges, all carved with eerie precision. The walls ripple with uniform chisel marks, each groove spaced almost mechanically apart, as if made by some ancient machine. Yet these caves date back over 2,000 years, to a time when iron tools were rudimentary and large-scale engineering projects were rarely documented. The sheer volume of removed stone, nearly 1 million cubic meters, would have required an army of workers laboring for decades. But here's the twist: not a single historical record, tool fragment, or even a stray pottery shard has been found to shed light on who built them or why. The craftsmanship is what truly baffles experts. The walls aren't just flat, they are adorned with intricate parallel lines, each stroke angled at exactly 60 degrees, a pattern repeated with near-industrial consistency across every surface. Recreating this today would require laser-guided tools or at least detailed blueprints, yet there's no evidence the builders used either. Some archaeologists speculate they employed a grid and string method, marking the walls systematically before chiseling. Others point to the cave's acoustics, noting how sound reverberates unnaturally in certain chambers, suggesting the carvings might have served a sonic purpose. Could these patterns be more than decoration? Were they designed to amplify rituals or even manipulate echoes for communication? Then there's the mystery of logistics. Removing that much rock would have generated enough debris to form a small mountain, yet no rubble piles have ever been located nearby. Where did it all go? One theory suggests the stone was used to construct nearby settlements, but no buildings from the era match the volume of material excavated. Even more puzzling is the cave's structural integrity. Despite being carved from soft sandstone, a material prone to collapse, the chambers have stood for millennia without reinforcement. The ceilings arch at precise angles to distribute weight, and pillars were left at calculated intervals, techniques that mirror modern engineering principles. How did ancient workers achieve this without mathematics or surveying tools advanced enough to measure stress points? Purpose only deepens the enigma. Some scholars argue the caves were imperial tombs, pointing to their grandeur and hidden entrances, but no sarcophagi, artifacts, or human remains have ever been found. Others propose they were secret storage bunkers for royalty or military supplies, yet their remote location makes this impractical. Local legends whisper of supernatural origins, dragons or gods hollowing out the earth, while conspiracy theorists float ideas about lost technologies or even extraterrestrial influence. The most compelling clue might lie in the watermarks staining the walls. The caves sit below the water table, meaning they would have flooded during construction unless constantly drained. Did the builders possess hydraulic knowledge far ahead of their time, or was the flooding intentional, part of some ritual or practical function we've yet to decipher? Standing in these silent chambers, you're struck by the weight of the unanswered. The Longyou caves aren't just a marvel of ancient engineering, they're a void in history, a project so colossal it should have echoed through the ages, yet somehow slipped into oblivion. Perhaps the truth lies hidden in the unexcavated tunnels. Nearly 90% of the complex remains unexplored. Until then, these caves remain a testament to human ambition and a humbling reminder that some secrets refuse to surface, no matter how deep we dig. Perched high above the city of Cusco, the zigzagging walls of Sacsayhuamán stand as a defiant masterpiece of Inca engineering. These aren't just ordinary ramparts. Each stone, some weighing as much as 200 tons, is a unique puzzle piece, carved with undulating edges that lock seamlessly into its neighbors. The precision is so exact that even after 500 years of earthquakes, not a single gap has appeared between them. Modern masons armed with diamond-tipped tools would struggle to replicate this level of craftsmanship. Yet the Inca achieved it without iron chisels or written blueprints. How one theory points to the power of patience and plants. Local legends speak of a mysterious herbal concoction, a juice extracted from rare Andean vegetation that could soften stone temporarily, allowing artisans to mold it like clay. Experiments with acidic plants like the pakpu herb have shown they can indeed etch rock surfaces, but skeptics argue this wouldn't explain the sheer scale and uniformity of Sacsayhuamán's walls. Another tantalizing idea involves sound. Oral traditions hint at the use of harmonic frequencies, where specific tones vibrated the stone just enough to make it pliable. While this sounds like science fiction, cultures worldwide from the pyramids to Coral Castle have similar myths about singing stones. Could there be a lost physics principle at play, one that turned vibration into a tool? Then there's the fortress's design itself. Those zigzagging walls aren't just for show, they're a seismic genius. Unlike straight walls that crack under pressure, Sacsayhuamán's jagged pattern disperses earthquake forces like a spring, absorbing shocks and redistributing energy. It's as if the Inca understood wave dynamics centuries before modern engineering. Even more perplexing is the lack of tool evidence. If they used hammers and chisels, where are the broken tools or quarry marks? Some researchers suggest they relied on harder stones to shape softer ones, a technique seen in other Inca sites, but this doesn't fully account for the intricate curves and flawless joins. The real mystery isn't just the how, it's the why. Sacsayhuamán wasn't merely a military stronghold. Its alignment with solstice sunrises and celestial events suggests it was a ceremonial hub, a bridge between earth and sky. The stone's serpentine pattern mirrors the sacred rivers below, while the three-tiered layout may symbolize the Inca cosmos. This wasn't just construction, it was alchemy, blending geology, astronomy, and spirituality into a single, unshakable testament to human ingenuity. Standing before these walls, you're left with a humbling thought. Perhaps the Incas' greatest tool wasn't physical at all, but their profound understanding of the natural world. They didn't fight the Earth's forces, they danced with them, crafting a fortress that didn't just withstand time, but conversed with it. And until we uncover their secrets, Sacsayhuamán remains both a monument and a riddle, its stones whispering of knowledge we're still straining to hear. In the heart of Delhi, a 7-ton iron pillar stands defiant against time, unrusted, unbroken, and untarnished after 16 centuries of monsoons, pollution, and humidity. While modern steel bridges corrode within decades, this ancient marvel remains as pristine as the day it was forged, its surface smooth and uncorrupted. The secret lies not in some lost alchemy, but in a startlingly sophisticated alloy blend, one that ancient Indian metallurgists perfected centuries before modern science understood corrosion resistance. At its core, the pillar's resilience comes from an unexpected ingredient, phosphorus. Unlike contemporary iron, which is purified to remove impurities, the Delhi pillar's metal contains a high phosphorus content, nearly 1%, alongside traces of other elements. This unique mix reacts with oxygen to form a paper-thin protective layer called mesawite, a crystalline shield that prevents rust from penetrating deeper. What's astonishing isn't just the presence of phosphorus, but how consistently it was distributed throughout the pillar, a feat requiring precise temperature control during smelting, something thought impossible in the 4th century CE. The bigger mystery is how they stumbled upon this formula. Without microscopes or chemical analysis, ancient smiths likely noticed that iron from certain ores resisted decay better than others. Through generations of trial and error, they might have identified phosphorus-rich ores, then refined their forging techniques to preserve the element's benefits. Some scholars point to the pillar's inscriptions, which describe it as a victory monument for King Chandragupta Roman II. Could its uncanny durability have been intentional, a symbolic statement of imperial permanence, or was it simply a happy accident of local metallurgical traditions? Modern engineers only rediscovered phosphorus's anti-corrosive properties in the 20th century, yet the pillar's creators wielded this knowledge with quiet mastery. Even today, replicating its alloy proves challenging. Too much phosphorus makes iron brittle, while too little fails to protect. The ancients struck a perfect balance, one that hints at a deeper understanding of material science than we've credited them for. Beyond Delhi, scattered examples of similarly resilient artifacts suggest this wasn't an isolated breakthrough. Roman-era iron nails from shipwrecks show unusual resistance to seawater, while medieval Japanese swords boast self-healing properties due to their unique forging techniques. Could these be fragments of a broader, forgotten metallurgical tradition? The Delhi pillar stands as a silent challenge to our assumptions about technological progress, proving that some ancient innovations weren't just ahead of their time, they remain unmatched by ours. Perhaps the most humbling lesson lies in the pillar's simplicity. In an age of nanotechnology and space-age alloys, this unadorned column of iron quietly outlasts them all. It asks us to reconsider what we label primitive, reminding us that true ingenuity isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's a quiet victory over time itself, etched in metal that refuses to fade. Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about early human civilization. Nestled in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, this 12,000-year-old temple complex features towering limestone pillars, some reaching 16 tons, each carved with shockingly intricate reliefs of scorpions, lions, and vultures. What makes this site so revolutionary? It was built by hunter-gatherers, a society that supposedly lacked the organization or tools for such an ambitious project. These people hadn't even discovered farming yet, let alone metal chisels. So how did they quarry, transport, and erect these colossal stones with nothing but flint tools and sheer manpower? The precision of the carvings is the first clue. The animal figures aren't crude scratches, they're dynamic, flowing artworks with feathers and muscles rendered in stunning detail. Replicating this today would require specialized tools, yet archaeologists have found no evidence of advanced equipment. Some researchers suggest they used fire to fracture the limestone before shaping it with harder stones, a technique seen in later cultures. But even this explanation falls short when you consider the logistics. Moving these pillars from quarries over half a mile away would have required coordinated teams of hundreds, all working in unison without the promise of food surplus that agriculture later provided. What could have motivated such a massive communal effort? One compelling theory points to ritual. The pillars are arranged in circular enclosures with central pairs that may represent deities or ancestors. Unlike later temples, which were built for living communities, Göbekli Tepe seems to have been a pilgrimage site, a sacred space drawing hunter-gatherer groups from across the region. This challenges the long-held belief that religion emerged after settled farming. Instead, the temple suggests spirituality might have been the spark that first brought humans together on a large scale. The carvings themselves tell a story. Vultures, often associated with death in early symbolism, hint at funerary rites or spiritual transitions. Were these pillars meant to bridge the human and divine worlds? The site's abandonment only deepens the mystery. After centuries of use, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried around 8200 BCE, filled with thousands of tons of soil and debris. Some see this as a ritual closure, while others speculate it was preserved for future generations. Whatever the reason, the burial protected the carvings so well that they emerge today looking as sharp as the day they were cut. Standing among these ancient pillars, you're left with a humbling realization. Our ancestors were far more sophisticated than we've given them credit for. Göbekli Tepe forces us to rewrite history, proving that collaboration, art, and spiritual yearning existed long before cities or kings. It's not just a temple, it's a time capsule whispering that the human drive to create, to connect, and to wonder about our place in the cosmos is far older than we ever imagined. At the bottom of the Aegean Sea, encrusted in coral and forgotten for 2 millennia, lay a corroded lump of bronze that would rewrite the history of technology, the Antikythera mechanism. When divers first pulled it from a Roman shipwreck in 1901, they assumed it was just another artifact. But decades later, X-rays revealed the truth. Inside that unassuming box was a labyrinth of interlocking gears, dials, and inscriptions. A 2,000-year-old Greek computer capable of predicting eclipses, tracking planetary movements, and even counting down to the next Olympic Games. The complexity of its 37 meshing bronze gears rivals that of 18th-century Swiss clocks, yet it was crafted centuries before the fall of Rome. How did its creators possess such sophisticated mechanical knowledge, and why was this brilliance lost to history? The mechanism's genius lies in its miniaturization of the cosmos. Turn its hand-cranked input, and tiny pointers would glide across dials, displaying the positions of the Sun, Moon, and 5 known planets with startling accuracy. One gear even modeled the Moon's elliptical orbit, accounting for its subtle speed changes, a detail medieval astronomers wouldn't grasp for another 1,500 years. Researchers now believe the device was based on Babylonian astronomical records, suggesting a fusion of Greek engineering and Mesopotamian math. But here's the twist. The Babylonians tracked the stars using clay tablets and arithmetic, not machines. Who first had the vision to translate those calculations into moving metal? The mystery deepens when you consider its isolation. No other devices like it have ever been found, and ancient texts mention nothing of its kind. Some scholars argue it was a one-off masterpiece, perhaps built for a wealthy patron or temple. Others speculate it hailed from a lost tradition of mechanical craftsmanship, its secrets drowned with the ship that carried it. The most haunting possibility that this wasn't unique at all, that similar devices existed but were melted down for their bronze, their knowledge erased by time's indifference. What's undeniable is the mechanism's silent challenge to our assumptions. For centuries, we believed the ancients lacked the precision tools or theoretical framework for such advanced engineering. Yet here's proof they could not only dream in gears but execute those dreams with breathtaking finesse. Perhaps the real question isn't how they built it, but why we ever doubted they could. In a single corroded box, the Antikythera mechanism holds a mirror to human ingenuity, reflecting not just the brilliance of the past, but the fragility of progress itself. Rising from the high-altitude plains of Bolivia, the Gate of the Sun stands as a silent sentinel to a civilization's forgotten mastery of the cosmos. Carved from a single block of andesite weighing nearly 10 tons, this towering archway is adorned with intricate reliefs of a winged deity surrounded by celestial figures, each detail so precise it seems to vibrate with hidden meaning. But what truly astonishes isn't just the artistry. It's the gate's uncanny alignment with the solstices. On the winter solstice, sunlight pierces through the arch like a laser, illuminating specific carvings as if activating a celestial clock. How did the Tiwanaku people, who left no written records, encode such sophisticated astronomical knowledge into stone? The precision of the gate's construction defies explanation. Andesite is notoriously difficult to carve, yet the Tiwanaku shaped it with smooth, razor-sharp edges. Some angles so exact they suggest the use of specialized tools far beyond simple stone chisels. Modern engineers have tried replicating these cuts with primitive techniques, only to end up with jagged, uneven surfaces. One theory points to the use of copper alloy tools combined with abrasive sands, a method that could achieve fine details through relentless grinding. But even this doesn't fully account for the gate's flawless symmetry or the intricate depth of its carvings, which depict a complex array of humanoid figures, condors, and geometric patterns. Were these merely decorative, or did they serve as a celestial codex? Some researchers argue the gate is a star map, its central deity representing the sun surrounded by constellations as they appeared millennia ago. Computer simulations show that the positions of the smaller figures align with key stars in the Milky Way during the Tiwanaku's peak around 500 CE. Others see it as a ritual portal tied to local legends of a time when gods walked the earth and gifted humanity with agricultural knowledge. The gate's alignment with solstices supports this idea. Perhaps it marked a sacred threshold where priests communicated with the divine during these cosmic turning points. The most tantalizing clue lies in the gate's fragmentation. Found broken in half when rediscovered in the 19th century, it's unclear whether this was the result of seismic activity or deliberate destruction. Local Aymara elders speak of a lost key that once activated the gate's full power, a device or knowledge that could open its celestial function. While this veers into myth, it underscores the deeper mystery. The Tiwanaku's understanding of astronomy seems to surpass what their technology should have allowed. Without telescopes or written records, how did they track the slow precession of the stars or predict solstices with such accuracy? Standing before the gate of the sun, you're struck by its duality. It's both a monument and a cipher. The Tiwanaku may have left no manuals or blueprints, but their legacy is etched in stone, challenging us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient science. In a world where we rely on satellites and supercomputers to map the heavens, this silent archway whispers of a time when humans read the sky like a familiar road, their knowledge not written in ink but carved into the very bones of the earth. Towering over the ruins of Mycenae, the Lion Gate looms as a silent testament to a civilization's brute strength and subtle artistry. Its massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 20 tons, fit together so tightly that not even a blade of grass could slip between them, all without a single drop of mortar. The Mycenaeans called this Cyclopean masonry, named for the mythical Cyclopes who were said to have lifted these stones with godlike power. But the truth behind their construction is far more fascinating than legend. The gate's most jaw-dropping feature isn't just the size of the stones, it's the lintel. This single slab, perched precariously above the entrance, weighs as much as 3 adult elephants. How did they hoist it into place without cranes or pulleys? The leading theory suggests earthen ramps, built up gradually and then dismantled after the stones were positioned. Yet no traces of these ramps have ever been found, leaving archaeologists to wonder if the Mycenaeans used something even more ingenious. Some propose a system of levers and counterweights, while others speculate about wooden sledges lubricated with water or animal fat to reduce friction. But the real mystery isn't just the method, it's the precision. The stones aren't merely stacked, they're carefully tapered at the edges, creating interlocking joints that distribute weight flawlessly. This isn't haphazard brute force, it's engineering disguised as art. Then there's the gate's crowning glory, the twin lionesses carved in relief, their forepaws resting on an altar beneath a slender column. This wasn't just decoration, it was a statement. In a world where power was etched in stone, the lions symbolized royal authority, their watchful gaze warding off enemies and welcoming allies. But the craftsmanship here is equally staggering. The relief was carved after the lintel was placed, meaning artisans dangled high above the ground, chiseling intricate details into solid rock with nothing but copper tools. The precision of their work suggests a level of skill and planning that rivals even the Parthenon's builders centuries later. What's most haunting, though, is how much we don't know. The Mycenaean civilization collapsed abruptly around 1100 BC, taking their construction secrets with them. Later Greeks, including the architects of classical Athens, marveled at these ruins, believing only giants could have built them. Even today, we're left with fragments, no blueprints, no toolkits, just the silent stones themselves. Were these techniques passed down from an even older culture? Did the Mycenaeans borrow ideas from Egypt or Mesopotamia, adapting them to their own rugged landscape? Or was their knowledge so unique that its loss set back Mediterranean engineering for generations? Standing beneath the Lion Gate, you're struck by its duality. It's both a fortress and a puzzle. The Mycenaeans didn't just build a door, they built a riddle, one that challenges our assumptions about ancient innovation. In a world where we can skyscraper with computer-guided cranes, these 20-ton stones remind us that true ingenuity isn't about the tools you have, it's about the vision to see what others dismiss as impossible. And until we uncover their secrets, the gate remains open, not just to a lost city, but to a forgotten way of thinking. Beneath the sun-baked plains of Cappadocia, Turkey lies a labyrinth so vast it could swallow entire cities. Derinkuyu, an underground metropolis plunging 18 stories deep, with tunnels snaking far enough to house 20,000 people. This isn't just a cluster of caves, it's a fully functional civilization carved into volcanic rock, complete with stables for livestock, sprawling wineries, and even rudimentary schools. The precision of its design rivals modern urban planning, yet it was excavated over 2,000 years ago with nothing but hand tools and human ingenuity. How did ancient builders hollow out such a space without causing catastrophic collapses? And why go to such extremes to live beneath the earth? The city's stability lies in its geology. Cappadocia's soft, tough rock, hard enough to hold shape yet malleable enough to carve, allowed artisans to create arched ceilings that distribute weight like natural caves. But the real genius is in the details. Ventilation shafts, some plunging over 200 feet, funnel fresh air to even the deepest chambers, while narrow passageways could be sealed with rolling stone doors to trap invaders or smoke. These weren't haphazard tunnels, they were a calculated refuge designed to sustain life for months during sieges. Archaeologists have found evidence of Byzantine-era Christians hiding here from Arab raids, but older layers suggest the city might date back to the Hittites, a civilization flourishing over 3,000 years ago. What's truly staggering is the scale of coordination required. Removing enough rock to create this space would have generated millions of tons of debris, yet no spoil heaps have been found nearby. Some theorize the excavated material was used to build surface settlements, while others suggest it was secretly dispersed across the landscape. Then there's the water supply. Deep wells tapped into underground aquifers, ensuring a constant flow even during droughts. The builders didn't just dig, they engineered a self-sustaining ecosystem, one that balanced population density with resource management centuries before the term existed. But was Derinkuyu purely practical? Certain chambers bear symbols of early Christian worship, while others align with celestial events, hinting at a spiritual dimension. The city's deepest levels, accessible only through hidden passages, might have served as sacred spaces, echoing the global tradition of associating the underworld with divine realms. Modern seismologists marvel at how the tunnels avoid fault lines, suggesting the builders possessed an intuitive grasp of geology. Was this knowledge passed down through generations, or did they develop techniques we've yet to rediscover? Today, only 10% of Derinkuyu has been explored. its full extent remains unknown, with local legends speaking of tunnels stretching hundreds of miles, connecting to other underground cities across Cappadocia. Standing in its shadowy corridor, you're left with a humbling thought. This wasn't just survival, it was a reimagining of what a city could be. In an age before skyscrapers, humans didn't just climb toward the sky, they mastered the earth itself, carving not just shelter, but a legacy that whispers of resilience, innovation, and secrets still buried in the dark. Perched high in the Andes, the megalithic terraces of Ollantaytambo cling to steep mountainsides like a staircase for giants. Here, the Inca crafted walls from stones so massive, some weighing over 50 tons, that modern engineers question whether today's cranes could even maneuver them into place. These aren't just retaining walls, they're masterclasses in precision, with each jagged boulder notched and fitted into its neighbor so tightly that earthquakes haven't shifted them in 6 centuries. The Inca themselves whispered that divine hands guided their construction, but the truth may lie in something far more fascinating, a marriage of brute force and celestial calculus. One glance at these terraces reveals their impossible geometry. The stones aren't merely stacked, they're woven together, their irregular edges interlocking like 3-dimensional puzzle pieces. This technique, known as ashlar masonry, eliminated the need for mortar while creating structures flexible enough to withstand the Andes' relentless tremors. But how did workers haul these behemoths up near vertical slopes without wheels or beasts of burden? Archaeologists point to earthen ramps and lever systems, where logs and ropes allowed teams to pivot stones incrementally. Recent experiments show that a few hundred laborers, synchronized by rhythmic chants, could have dragged the blocks on wooden sledges. Yet even this explanation feels incomplete when you consider the terrain, narrow paths with deadly drop-offs where one misstep could send tons of rock cascading into the valley below. The site's celestial alignment deepens the mystery. During the summer solstice, sunlight strikes the terraces at precise angles, illuminating carved channels that may have funneled ritual libations. Some scholars believe Ollantaytambo was less a fortress and more a temple to the sun, its stones placed to harness cosmic energy. This spiritual dimension might explain the obsessive effort. These weren't just walls, but conduits between earth and sky. The Inca saw mountains as living deities, and shaping them with such reverence may have been an act of devotion as much as engineering. What's often overlooked is the quarry's location across the valley, 600 feet higher than the construction site. Transporting stones downhill should have been simpler, but the builders chose instead to lower them to the river, float them across, then haul them up the opposite slope. This counterintuitive route suggests a sacred blueprint, where every stone's journey mirrored the path of the sun or the flow of spiritual energy. Modern pragmatism struggles to reconcile such effort with practical goals, but for the Inca, the process itself may have held transformative power. Standing atop these terraces today, you're struck by their duality. They're both boundary and bridge, separating cultivated land from wilderness while symbolically connecting humanity to the heavens. The Inca's legacy here isn't just in the stones, but in the questions they force us to ask. When does engineering become art? When does a wall become a prayer? Ollantaytambo offers no easy answers, only the silent testimony of rocks that refuse to yield their secrets, challenging us to rethink the very definition of impossible. At Pumapunku, the stones don't just lie in ruins, they challenge reality. Scattered across Bolivia's high-altitude plains, these shattered blocks boast cuts so precise they look machined, with razor-sharp 90-degree angles and surfaces smooth as glass. The most baffling are the H-shaped blocks, each one a geometric masterpiece, their inner corners meeting with a perfection that even modern water jet cutters would struggle to replicate. How did a civilization without iron tools, let alone precision instruments, achieve such exactitude? The answer might lie in something as humble as sand and patience beyond measure. One prevailing theory suggests the builders used a grinding technique, rubbing harder stones like andesite against softer surfaces with abrasive sand as a middle layer. Over weeks or months, this relentless friction could have slowly carved those flawless angles. Experimental archaeologists have recreated similar cuts using nothing but quartz sand and copper tools, but the scale at Pumapunku staggers the imagination. Some blocks weigh over 100 tons, yet their edges align with microscopic precision, as if the entire site was assembled from a giant, pre-planned kit. This has led to wilder speculation. Were these blocks prefabricated elsewhere, then shipped to the site for assembly like some ancient IKEA project? The mystery deepens when you examine the interlocking joints. Certain stones feature complex notches and protrusions that slot together seamlessly, a technique resembling modern earthquake-resistant architecture. Even more perplexing is the uniformity across hundreds of broken fragments. The angles and proportions remain eerily consistent, hinting at standardized units of measurement or even modular construction. But here's the twist: Pumapunku wasn't just built, it was annihilated. The site lies in chaotic disarray, with multi-ton blocks tossed like toys, some flung hundreds of feet from their original positions. Geological evidence points to a catastrophic event, possibly a massive flood or even an airburst from a comet fragment, around 12,000 years ago. This raises a haunting question: was Pumapunku a construction site frozen in time, its secrets lost to disaster? Some researchers propose it was a workshop where stones were shaped before being transported to nearby Tiwanaku. Others, tapping into local legends of sky gods, suggest it was something far stranger, a landing platform or energy hub described in myth. The truth may lie somewhere between. The Tiwanaku people left no written records, but their oral traditions speak of Viracocha, a bearded deity who brought knowledge of masonry and astronomy. Could these stories preserve garbled memories of a lost technology? Standing amid the ruins, you're struck by the duality of Pumapunku. It's both a graveyard and a gallery, its shattered stones whispering of a sophistication we're only beginning to fathom. In a world where we laser-cut titanium for spacecraft, these ancient builders achieved comparable precision with nothing but stone, sand, and time. Their legacy isn't just in what they made, it's in the silent dare they left behind, to rethink what's possible when human ingenuity meets the patience of the earth itself. Beneath the crystal waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, a massive stone formation rises from the ocean floor like a sunken city. Terraced walls, sharp right angles, and staircases that seem too precise to be the work of nature. The Yonaguni Monument, as it's known, stretches nearly 500 feet long and stands 80 feet tall, its flat platforms and near-perfect 90-degree corners defying simple geological explanations. If human hands carved this structure, it would mean an advanced civilization thrived here over 10,000 years ago, long before the pyramids of Egypt. But how could ancient builders have constructed something now submerged under 120 feet of water? The debate hinges on the monument's uncanny symmetry. Geologists point to the area's sandstone, which naturally fractures along straight lines due to tectonic stress. They argue that underwater currents and erosion could have sculpted the terraces over millennia. Yet skeptics counter that nature rarely produces such consistent right angles or stair-like formations in perfect alignment. Marine archaeologist Masaki Kimura has spent decades studying the site, identifying what he believes are tool marks, carved channels, and even a humanoid face etched into the rock. His most startling claim: the monument's layout mirrors ancient Okinawan tomb structures, suggesting a cultural link. Then there's the puzzle of sea levels. During the last ice age, Yonaguni would have been above water, making it plausible for humans to have built there. But that pushes the timeline back to a period when mainstream archaeology insists humans were primitive hunter-gatherers, incapable of large-scale stone construction. Could this be evidence of a lost civilization, one swallowed by rising seas as glaciers melted? Indigenous Ryukyuan legends speak of a flood that drowned their ancestral lands, a story echoed in myths worldwide. Divers exploring the site report an eerie sense of intentional design. One section, dubbed the Turtle, resembles a zoomorphic sculpture, while another features a straight, 5-meter-long trench that looks unmistakably man-made. Even more compelling are the twin megaliths at the top, standing like sentinels with edges so sharp they seem chiseled. Modern attempts to replicate these features using natural erosion models fall short. No known geological process creates such crisp, repetitive geometry. The implications are staggering. If Yonaguni is artificial, it rewrites not just Japanese history but humanity's entire narrative. Who were these builders and what happened to them? Did they possess knowledge of architecture and engineering that vanished beneath the waves? Or is the monument a fluke of nature, a cosmic joke that happens to mirror human design? Until definitive proof emerges, Yonaguni remains a riddle wrapped in stone and seawater, a silent challenge to our understanding of the past, daring us to reconsider what ancient humans were truly capable of. Standing among the towering sarsen stones of Stonehenge, it's easy to overlook the smaller blue stones, but their story is perhaps the most astonishing. These 4-ton monoliths didn't come from the surrounding plains. They were hauled over 140 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales. Picture that journey, Neolithic people without wheels or draft animals, navigating rivers, forests, and steep terrain to transport these massive slabs. Modern experiments have tried to recreate their methods: wooden sledges dragged over log rollers, or rafts floated along waterways, but even with today's knowledge, the effort remains staggering. One team of archaeologists found it took over 100 people just to move a 1-ton stone a few hundred yards. So why go to such extremes when local stones were readily available? The answer might lie in the blue stone's unique properties. Unlike the sarsens, which are sandstone, these Welsh stones are spotted dolerite, a rock that resonates with a metallic ring when struck. Some researchers believe the Neolithic builders prized them for their acoustic qualities, using them to create sonic rituals or even early musical instruments. Others point to their striking blue-green hue when wet, suggesting they held spiritual significance tied to water or the earth. But the most compelling clue comes from their origin. The Preseli Hills were already a sacred site, dotted with ancient burial chambers and ceremonial circles. Transporting stones from this hallowed ground may have been an act of pilgrimage, infusing Stonehenge with the power of a distant, mystical landscape. The precision of their placement adds another layer of mystery. The blue stones form an inner horseshoe and circle, aligning perfectly with the summer and winter solstices. This wasn't just random stacking, it required advanced knowledge of astronomy and geometry. How did Neolithic people, without written language or advanced tools, calculate these alignments so flawlessly? Some theories suggest they used simple counting systems or observed shadows cast by marker stones over generations, but the blue stone's journey, both physical and symbolic, hints at something deeper. They weren't merely building materials, they were vessels of meaning carrying the essence of one sacred space to another. The logistics of their transport still baffle experts. While the raft and sledge theory is plausible, traces of such a route, like worn pathways or tool fragments, are scant. An alternative idea proposes glacial movement, suggesting Ice Age glaciers carried the stones partway, leaving them for humans to collect. But geological studies show the bluestone's chemistry matches quarries in Wales, not glacial deposits. This leaves us with a tantalizing possibility. The Neolithic builders possessed organizational skills far beyond what we've credited them for, coordinating labor and resources across generations to achieve a vision we're only beginning to understand. Stonehenge's bluestones are more than relics. They're a testament to human determination and ingenuity. Their journey speaks of a culture that saw stone not just as substance, but as story, a connection between earth and sky, past and future. In a world where we measure progress in microchips and megapixels, these ancient monoliths remind us that true innovation isn't always about invention, but about the audacity to dream across distances, both physical and spiritual. And until we uncover their full story, they stand as silent witnesses to a time when the impossible was just another challenge waiting to be met. Buried beneath the sands of modern-day Pakistan, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro reveal a city so meticulously planned it could rival any modern metropolis. Dating back 4,500 years, this ancient marvel of the Indus Valley civilization boasted wide, grid-patterned streets laid out with near-mathematical precision, some avenues stretching perfectly straight for over half a mile. Each brick, whether used for a humble home or a towering granary, adhered to a standardized ratio of 4:2:1, a uniformity so exact that modern bricklayers would nod in respect. How did a Bronze Age society achieve such consistency without blueprints or centralized governance? The answer may lie in something as simple as cubical stone weights found across the city, suggesting a shared system of measurement so reliable it unified an entire civilization's construction practices. But Mohenjo-Daro's genius wasn't just in its orderly streets, it flowed underground. Beneath those uniform bricks ran one of history's earliest known sewage systems, a network of clay pipes and covered drains that funneled waste away from homes and public wells. Each house connected to this subterranean labyrinth, a feat of civic engineering that wouldn't be matched in Europe for another 3,000 years. The sophistication here is staggering. Drains featured sedimentation traps to filter debris, and their gentle slopes prevented blockages while ensuring steady flow. This wasn't just functionality, it was a profound understanding of hydraulics and public health, all achieved without the benefit of metal tools beyond basic copper chisels. The city's sudden abandonment only deepens the intrigue. Around 1900 BC, Mohenjo-Daro's bustling streets fell silent. No signs of invasion, no weapons, no mass graves, just empty buildings and a thin layer of ash that sparked decades of speculation. Early theorists pointed to a mythical Aryan invasion, but archaeological evidence discredited this. Others proposed a catastrophic flood, yet the city's elevated platform and drainage systems make this unlikely. The most haunting hypothesis, a slow environmental collapse. Soil samples reveal rising salinity from over-irrigation, while shifting river patterns may have starved the city of trade and water. Imagine a civilization so advanced it mastered urban planning, yet so fragile it vanished beneath the weight of ecological change. What truly sets Mohenjo-Daro apart is its eerie modernity. Unlike the pyramid builders or palace-obsessed kings of contemporary Mesopotamia and Egypt, the Indus Valley people left no grand monuments to ego, no towering statues, no boastful inscriptions, just a city built for living, where clean water and efficient sanitation were priorities. Their focus on collective welfare over individual glory hints at a societal structure unlike any other in antiquity. Were they the world's first civil engineers, or did their knowledge spring from an even older, lost tradition? The absence of deciphered writing from the civilization leaves these questions hanging in the dry, cinned air. Standing in the ruins today, you're struck by the quiet democracy of the place. Every home, from the smallest to the largest, had access to the same amenities, a radical notion for its time. In an era when most ancient cities grew organically into chaotic warrens, Mohenjo-Daro stands as a testament to foresight and equality. Its legacy isn't just in the bricks or drains, but in the revolutionary idea that a city could be designed, not just inherited, a notion that would lie dormant for millennia before being rediscovered in the age of skyscrapers and zoning laws. The real mystery isn't how they built it, but why the world forgot. The sprawling temples of Angkor Wat rise from the Cambodian jungle like a mirage, but their true genius lies beneath the surface, an aquatic labyrinth so vast it boggles the modern mind. Over 1,000 years ago, the Khmer Empire engineered a hydraulic network spanning 400 square miles, with canals, moats, and reservoirs that functioned like a beating heart for a city of 1 million souls. At its center stood the West Barre, a man-made reservoir stretching 5 miles long and 1.5 miles wide, a feat of earthwork so massive it's visible from space. Unlike modern dams that rely on concrete and steel, the Khmer used nothing but layered clay, sand, and laterite, creating a system so resilient it withstood centuries of monsoons. How did they achieve such precision without topographic maps or computer models? The answer may lie in the stars. Archaeologists have discovered that key channels align with celestial events, mirroring the path of the Dragon constellation revered in Khmer cosmology. During the spring equinox, sunlight would strike specific waterways at perfect angles, suggesting the system wasn't just functional, it was a mirror of the heavens. This celestial choreography extended to flood control. By constructing a gradient of interconnected reservoirs, engineers could redirect monsoon rains away from urban centers, then release stored water during droughts through a series of sluice gates and spillways. Modern hydrologists estimate the system could have redistributed over 2 million cubic meters of water annually, all without pumps or pipes. Yet the most astonishing aspect isn't the scale, it's the sophistication of their materials. The Khmer mixed a unique blend of organic resins with their mortar, creating a self-sealing concrete that expanded slightly when wet, preventing leaks. Recent soil studies reveal they even engineered the landscape itself, sculpting the terrain into subtle terraces that guided water flow with gravity alone. This wasn't just engineering, it was ecological poetry, a dialogue between human need and natural forces. So why did this waterborne marvel vanish? Climate records tell a grim tale. A series of megadroughts in the 14th century, followed by catastrophic flooding, destabilized the system. But the deeper fault lines were human. As the empire expanded, deforestation for rice paddies disrupted watersheds while silt choked the canals. The Khmer's greatest strength, their ability to bend water to their will, may have blinded them to its limits. By the time Portuguese explorers arrived in the 16th century, the reservoirs were forests, their sluice gates buried under vines. Today, as Cambodia faces new water crises, archaeologists and engineers are racing to decode the Khmer's secrets. Satellite imaging has uncovered thousands of undocumented channels, while farmers are reviving ancient rice-fish polyculture techniques that once thrived here. Angkor's legacy isn't just in its crumbling towers, it's in the whispers of water wisdom carved into the land itself. A reminder that even the grandest civilizations must learn to flow with nature or risk drying up in defiance of its rhythms. Rising like a sacred mountain from the Valley of Mexico, the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan dominates the landscape with its sheer mass, 2.5 million tons of volcanic stone stacked 216 feet high. But what truly sets this ancient marvel apart isn't just its size. It's the eerie precision with which it captures celestial rhythms. During the spring equinox, the sun aligns perfectly with the pyramid's western facade, casting shadows that slither down the steps like a serpent in motion. Even more astonishing is the pyramid's alignment with the Pleiades star cluster, which would have appeared directly above its summit around the time of its construction in 200 CE. Without telescopes or written records, how did the Teotihuacanos map the heavens so accurately? Archaeologists suspect they used a simple but effective tool, a vertical staff called a gnomon, to track the sun's path across seasons, marking solstices and equinoxes with stone markers. Yet the pyramid's celestial choreography goes beyond solar events. Its base forms a near-perfect square oriented precisely 15.5 degrees east of true north, an alignment that mirrors the sacred mountain Cerro Gordo on the horizon, suggesting the builders saw their creation as a bridge between earth and sky. Beneath this monumental structure lies an even greater enigma: pools of liquid mercury, discovered in a sealed tunnel beneath the pyramid in 2015. This shimmering metal would have been extraordinarily rare in Mesoamerica, requiring elaborate refining techniques from cinnabar ore mined hundreds of miles away. Ancient texts from later cultures like the Maya describe mercury as a sacred substance representing the underworld's rivers, a symbolic portal to the realm of the dead. But why here? Some researchers believe the mercury formed part of a ritual mirror, reflecting celestial bodies during ceremonies to commune with ancestors. Others propose it was a component of an alchemical process, possibly linked to the pyramid's function as a transformative space where rulers underwent spiritual rebirth. The presence of otherworldly materials doesn't stop there. Nearby, archaeologists have unearthed mica sheets, a mineral with unique thermal and electrical properties, embedded in the pyramid's layers like ancient insulation. Were the Teotihuacanos harnessing natural energies we've yet to comprehend? The pyramid's construction methods only deepen the mystery. Unlike Egyptian pyramids built with uniform blocks, the Pyramid of the Sun uses a unique adobe core technique: volcanic rock rubble bound with clay, then faced with limestone. This gave the structure remarkable earthquake resistance, allowing it to endure centuries of seismic activity. But the real marvel lies in its proportions. The pyramid's base perimeter equals the length of the ancient Mesoamerican calendar year, 365 units of a standardized measurement. Even more strikingly, its height-to-base ratio mirrors the geometric relationship between Earth's radius and circumference, a mathematical harmony that seems impossible without advanced knowledge. Could this be coincidence, or did the Teotihuacanos possess a lost understanding of planetary dimensions? Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they built it, but why with such obsessive precision. Unlike later Aztec temples drenched in blood sacrifices, Teotihuacan shows little evidence of violence. Instead, the pyramid seems designed to harmonize with natural forces, a cosmic antenna tuning into celestial frequencies. The mercury below, the stars above, and the echoing chambers within all point to a civilization that saw no divide between science and spirituality. Modern visitors climbing its weathered steps often report an uncanny sensation, as if the structure itself pulses with latent energy. Whether psychological suggestion or something deeper, one thing is clear: the Pyramid of the Sun doesn't just stand as a relic of the past. It's a cipher, challenging us to decode the silent language of a people who measured time in celestial movements and built mountains to touch the divine. Rising from the turquoise waters of Micronesia like a mirage, the ruins of Nan Madol defy logic. 92 artificial islands built atop coral reefs, their foundations constructed from colossal basalt logs weighing as much as 50 tons each. These hexagonal and octagonal columns, stacked like matchsticks, form walls 16 feet high in some places, all without mortar or binding material. The logistics alone boggle the mind. How did builders transport these multi-ton stones across open water without metal tools or large vessels? Local oral traditions speak of twin sorcerers who summoned a dragon to levitate the stones, while others whisper of ancestral spirits guiding the logs through the waves. But archaeologists point to a more tangible yet no less astonishing solution: a fleet of bamboo rafts lashed together to create floating platforms capable of bearing the basalt's immense weight. The real enigma isn't just the how, but the why. Constructing a city on unstable coral reefs, vulnerable to storms and rising tides, seems like a recipe for disaster. Yet Nan Madol thrived for centuries as the ceremonial heart of the Sordalor dynasty. The answer may lie in the island's strategic isolation. Positioned between channels of swirling currents, the reefs acted as a natural moat, deterring invaders while allowing the ruling elite to monitor maritime traffic. The basalt itself, quarried from volcanic outcrops on the opposite side of Pohnpei Island, held spiritual significance, its dense, prismatic structure symbolizing permanence in a watery world. By building with this material, the Sordalor may have sought to manifest their divine authority, quite literally anchoring their power in stone. Modern experiments reveal the staggering effort behind this feat. To move just one 50-ton log, researchers estimate it would have required over 1,000 laborers, working in shifts to roll the columns onto rafts during high tide, then painstakingly guiding them through labyrinthine mangrove passages. The precision of the construction is equally baffling. Without pulleys or cranes, workers likely used wooden levers and inclined planes to hoist the logs into place, their interlocking shapes distributing weight to prevent collapse. Even more impressive, the entire complex aligns with celestial events. Certain walls frame the rising sun during equinoxes, suggesting the city doubled as an astronomical observatory. What truly haunts researchers, though, is the civilization's abrupt collapse. By the 16th century, Nan Madol was abandoned, its canals choked with silt and its altars silent. Some blame resource depletion. The strain of quarrying and transporting basalt may have exhausted the population. Others point to rebellion. Oral histories tell of a tyrannical ruler overthrown by a warrior from the neighboring island of Khosri. Whatever the cause, Nan Madol's legacy endures as a paradox, a city built on water yet anchored in myth, its stones whispering of a time when humans dared to conquer the sea itself. Today, as climate change threatens to submerge the ruins entirely, these silent islands serve as a warning. Even the mightiest monuments must reckon with the tides of time. Towering over the savannah, the dristone walls of Great Zimbabwe curve and climb like a serpent frozen in stone granite blocks, stacked so precisely that after 700 years, not a single gap has appeared between them. This sprawling complex, once the heart of a civilization that dominated southern Africa's gold trade, was built without mortar, without arches, even without written plans. Yet its walls, some reaching 30 feet high, have outlasted empires. The secret lies in a technique so simple it's genius. Each stone was individually shaped to fit its neighbor, their angles calculated by eye and adjusted through trial and error. Imagine artisans tapping rocks together, listening for the telltale clink of a perfect match, then locking them into place with nothing but gravity and patience. Modern engineers call this joggling, a method that not only resists erosion but actually grows stronger over time as settling tightens the bonds. But the real mystery isn't just how they built it, it's who built it. The Shona people, who thrived here between the 11th and 15th centuries, left no inscriptions or blueprints. Their legacy is written in the stones themselves: terraces that channeled rainwater into hidden cisterns, narrow passageways designed to funnel cool breezes, and enclaves arranged to mirror the movement of the stars. The most iconic structure, the conical tower, aligns with celestial events, its shadow stretching like a sundial's hand during solstices. Was this a granary, a royal residence, or an astronomical observatory? The tower's hollow interior hums with peculiar acoustics, amplifying whispers into echoes, a feature that hints at rituals lost to time. Gold threaded this city's destiny. Artifacts unearthed here: Arabian coins, Chinese porcelain, and glass beads from India paint a portrait of a metropolis plugged into global trade networks. The Shona mined gold from nearby rivers, trading it for luxuries across the Indian Ocean. Yet curiously, no gold hoards have been found within the walls. Some archaeologists believe it was stored in perishable wooden structures, while others theorize the wealth was deliberately dispersed to avoid plunder. This scarcity fuels one of Zimbabwe's greatest puzzles. Why was such a prosperous city abandoned by the 15th century? Climate holds one clue. Pollen samples reveal a prolonged drought that would have withered crops and dried up trade routes, but human choices may have sealed the city's fate. As power fragmented, rival chieftains likely splintered the kingdom, diverting gold caravans to new hubs. By the time Portuguese explorers arrived in the 16th century, Great Zimbabwe was already a ghost city, its walls whispered to be the work of biblical kings or mythical giants. Colonial archaeologists, unwilling to credit African ingenuity, spun fantastical theories about Phoenician or Arab builders, a bias that delayed proper recognition of the site's true origins for decades. Today, the stones tell a different story. They speak of a civilization that mastered its environment, turning granite into governance and trade into transcendence. The walls aren't just ruins, they're a rebuttal to every assumption about pre-colonial Africa's technological backwardness. In their silent curves, we glimpse a world where wealth wasn't hoarded but woven into the very fabric of community, where astronomy and hydraulics were as vital as gold. Great Zimbabwe's greatest lesson isn't in its abandonment, it's in its endurance, a testament to what happens when human ambition meets the patience of stone. The rose-red cliffs of Petra don't just tower, they perform. Carved directly into the sandstone face, the city's iconic facades, like the treasury and the monastery, aren't mere buildings. They're symphonies in stone, their columns and pediments so precise they could rival any Greek temple. But here's the catch. The Nabateans didn't construct these masterpieces, they subtracted them, chiseling downward from the top of the cliff face to avoid scaffolding. Picture artisans dangling from ropes, their copper chisels biting into the rock grain by grain, guided by nothing but mental blueprints and generations of inherited skill. The precision is staggering. Floral motifs, mythological figures, and even intricate staircases inside tombs were all carved in reverse, a process akin to sculpting a statue by starting at its shadow. Why risk such a perilous approach? The answer lies in the sandstone itself. Unlike marble or granite, this rock softens when exposed to morning dew, making it easier to carve in the early hours but hardening by midday into a near indestructible shell. The Nabateans didn't just adapt to their environment, they collaborated with it, timing their work to the rhythm of the earth. Even more astonishing is how they harnessed natural fractures in the rock, using existing crevices as guidelines for doorways and chambers, turning geological flaws into architectural features. Modern laser scans reveal that some tombs align with solstice sunrises, their doorways flooding with light on specific days like celestial spotlights. Was this a calendar, a divine signal, or both? Then there's the puzzle of Petra's location. Tucked into a remote canyon in Jordan's desert, the city seems deliberately hidden until you consider the Nabateans' genius for hydraulics. They carved over 200 cisterns into the cliffs, channeling flash floods through a network of dams and tunnels that turned this arid gorge into an oasis. The canyon walls weren't just a fortress, they were a sponge, absorbing and redistributing every precious drop of water. This wasn't isolation, it was control. By positioning Petra at the crossroads of ancient trade routes, the Nabateans could tax caravans carrying spices, silk, and incense, all while remaining virtually impervious to attack. The cliffs that appeared to conceal them actually protected their wealth. The final enigma is the facade's longevity. Unlike most ancient ruins, Petra's carved structures haven't crumbled, they've endured, their surfaces still sharp after 2,000 years of wind and weather. The secret, a natural silica glaze that forms on sandstone when exposed to sunlight, creating a self-sealing protective layer. The Nabateans likely noticed this phenomenon and oriented their carvings to maximize the effect, blending art with geochemistry. Standing before these towering facades, you realize Petra wasn't just a city, it was a dialogue between human ambition and earthly forces. Every chisel mark whispers of a civilization that didn't fight the desert's harshness but danced with it, turning cliffs into canvases and water into wealth. In a world obsessed with building up, the Nabateans dared to carve in, proving that sometimes the most profound monuments aren't raised, they're revealed. Chaco Canyon's arrow-straight roads slice through the New Mexico desert like scars, left by some celestial blade stretching over 30 miles in unbroken lines, connecting sacred sites with a precision that defies the rugged terrain. These aren't mere footpaths, they're engineered thoroughfares, some as wide as 30 feet, flanked by low stone walls and carved into the earth with deliberate intent. What's most baffling isn't their scale, but their purpose. Unlike practical trade routes that wind around obstacles, Chaco's roads ignore natural barriers, climbing cliffs and plunging into arroyos without deviation. This isn't just inefficiency, it's design. The ancestral Puebloans who built them 1,000 years ago seemed to prioritize celestial alignment over convenience, crafting roads that point unerringly to distant buttes, springs, or even the rising moon at its most extreme northern standstill. How did they achieve such accuracy without compasses or written language? One clue lies in the canyon's geography itself. Researchers have discovered that many roads align with key topographic features: a solitary peak, a distinctive rock outcrop that could have served as natural surveying markers. By sighting along these landmarks, Puebloan engineers may have plotted their courses using nothing more than wooden stakes and taut cords. But the real marvel is how these physical markers intertwine with cosmic events. Roadways like the Great North Road, which runs straight as an arrow for 50 miles, align with the lunar minor standstill, a rare event when the moon rises at its farthest northern point, occurring only every 18.6 years. This suggests the roads weren't just for travel, they were processional pathways guiding pilgrims during sacred celestial moments. Theories about their purpose spiral as wildly as the canyon's spiraled petroglyphs. Some archaeologists argue the roads facilitated pilgrimages to Chaco's great houses, monumental structures like Pueblo Bonito, where thousands gathered for ceremonies tied to solstices and lunar cycles. Others see them as physical manifestations of the Puebloan spiritual cosmology, mapping the journey of souls to the underworld or mirroring the roads of the Milky Way. The road's lack of practical wear supports this. Few artifacts or erosion patterns suggest heavy foot traffic. Instead, they may have been walked only during rituals, their very straightness symbolizing a connection between the earthly and the divine. Then there's the enigma of their construction. Unlike Roman roads layered with gravel and graded for drainage, Chaco's roads are often just cleared dirt or shallow trenches. Yet their edges are unnaturally crisp, and some are bordered by berms or rows of stones that glow faintly under moonlight. a feature that would have made them luminous guides during night processions. Even more puzzling are the staircases carved into cliffsides where roads ascend vertical rock faces via chiseled toeholds. These weren't shortcuts, they were deliberate challenges, forcing travelers to ascend ritually toward the sky. The most haunting question isn't how or why they were built, but why they were abandoned. By the 13th century, Choco's roads led nowhere, the great houses emptied, the ceremonies forgotten. Climate data reveals a devastating drought, but the roads themselves hint at a deeper unraveling. Some terminate abruptly at sheer cliffs or plunge into arroyos, as if their builders left mid-construction. Were they trying to reconnect with a cosmos that had turned hostile, or did the roads, once channels of sacred power, become pathways of retreat? Today, these silent lines remain, not just on the desert floor, but in the constellations of Pueblo oral traditions where they're remembered as spirit paths. Modern astronomers armed with LiDAR and GPS still struggle to decode their full significance. Choco's roads don't just cross land, they bridge time, inviting us to walk, if only in imagination, along routes where every step was a prayer and every mile a conversation with the stars. Buried deep beneath the earth near Xi'an, China, lies one of history's most astonishing displays of mass production, an army of 8,000 terracotta warriors, each with a face as unique as a fingerprint. Discovered in 1974 by farmers digging a well, this subterranean battalion wasn't just a symbolic gesture, it was a logistical miracle. Every soldier, archer, and cavalryman was crafted with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and even expressions, suggesting an assembly line of artisans working in unison. But how did Qin dynasty workshops achieve such staggering individuality at scale? The answer lies in a system that balanced efficiency with artistry, modular bodies stamped from molds, then customized by hand with personalized details. Eyebrows were pinched, lips shaped, and armor textured to transform standardized blanks into vivid individuals. Recent 3D scans reveal that while ears and noses were often reused from a set of templates, the combinations were shuffled so thoroughly that no two faces are identical. The kilns themselves were feats of industrial planning. Excavations unearthed vast workshop complexes with specialized zones, clay pits for sourcing local lower soil, drying racks to prevent cracks, and rows of underground kilns capable of firing hundreds of figures simultaneously. Temperatures had to be meticulously controlled. Too hot, and the statues would shatter; too cool, and they'd crumble. Artisans likely used a stepped firing process, gradually increasing heat over days to ensure durability. The scale suggests a workforce numbering in the thousands, organized with military precision. Some figures bear inscriptions naming their creators, evidence of a quality control system where craftsmen took pride in their work, even for an audience of the dead. But why bury such an elaborate army? The first emperor Qin Shi Huang didn't just want protection in the afterlife. He sought to replicate his earthly dominion down to the last detail. Historical records describe his tomb complex as a microcosm of his empire, complete with rivers of mercury and constellations of pearls. The terracotta warriors weren't mere statues, they were an eternal garrison, frozen in time to enforce his rule beyond death. This wasn't vanity, it was a profound cultural belief that the afterlife mirrored the living world, requiring the same infrastructure and authority. The army's destruction adds another layer of mystery. Many figures were found shattered, their paint flaked away, victims of a revolt shortly after the emperor's death. Peasant uprisings targeted the tomb, burning wooden supports and toppling warriors in an act of symbolic defiance. Yet the vandalism inadvertently preserved them. The collapsed earth sealed the figures away, hiding them from looters for 2 millennia. Today, the terracotta warriors stand as a testament to both imperial ambition and artisan ingenuity. They bridge the gap between art and industry, proving that mass production didn't begin with the assembly line. It was perfected by hands working in unison 2,000 years ago. In their silent ranks, we see the birth of standardization and the enduring human desire to leave a mark, even if it's meant for eternity's shadows. From the towering pyramids of Giza to the cliff-carved facades of Petra, these 30 ancient construction methods don't just defy time, they defy our assumptions about human ingenuity. Each stone, each precise angle, each self-healing concrete formula whispers a tantalizing question. Were these civilizations far more advanced than history books suggest, or did they possess knowledge that somehow slipped through the cracks of time? The truth might be waiting in crumbling manuscripts yet to be deciphered, or buried beneath layers of earth in ruins we haven't even uncovered. Think about it, the Romans perfected concrete that grows stronger with seawater, while our modern ports crumble in decades. The Inca shaped granite like putty, fitting stones so tightly that earthquakes can't budge them. And who can explain the eerie celestial alignments of Teotihuacan or the acoustic secrets of Chaco Canyon? These aren't just lucky accidents, they're proof of intentional mastery, of generations honing techniques we're still struggling to replicate. But here's the real magic. Every one of these mysteries invites us to rethink what's possible. Maybe the answers aren't lost, just overlooked. Maybe the next great archaeological discovery is hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to connect the dots. That's where you come in. What's the ancient wonder that leaves you awestruck? Is it the floating stones of Nan Madol, the cosmic blueprints of Stonehenge, or the hydraulic genius of Angkor Wat? Drop your favorite enigma in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive and unravel these puzzles together. And if you're hungry for more deep dives into the past's untold stories, hit that subscribe button. From forgotten technologies to civilizations that vanished without a trace, we're just scratching the surface of history's greatest secrets. The past isn't done surprising us yet, so stay curious, stay questioning, and who knows? The next breakthrough might start